"Buy this, my children haven't eaten in days." Then the Sheikh changed the waitress's life. Comment telling me what you thought of this story, giving it a grade from 0 to 10, and let me know what city you're watching from. I really want to know if you liked my story and get to know you better, so please subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The fine New York winter rain turned Park Avenue into a wet mirror, reflecting the neons of skyscrapers that disappeared into the grey fog. Khalil al-Mansouri walked through the hurried crowd, his hands buried in the pockets of his discreet coat, his dark brown eyes observing the incessant movement of the city that had become his home for over a decade. At 35, he carried on his shoulders an empire that many older men envied, but also a weight that no fortune could alleviate. Born between the golden sands of Dubai and the bustling streets of New York, Khalil had learned early on that money was simultaneously a blessing and a curse. When he lost his parents in that terrible plane crash at 20, he inherited not only billions in oil and investments, but also the bitter suspicion that every smile directed at him had a hidden price. Every gesture of affection hid a financial intention. That's why he walked alone that afternoon, dismissing the bodyguards who always accompanied him from a distance, wearing simple clothes that made him look like just another ordinary executive coming home from work. It was his way of breathing, of feeling human for a few moments, far from the tailored suits and the meetings where every word was worth millions. The sound echoed like a battle cry amidst the city's buzz. "Please, buy this. My children haven't eaten in 3 days. I need money for food." Khalil stopped abruptly, as if he had hit an invisible wall. The female voice, laden with desperation and wounded dignity, cut through the cold air like a blade. He turned towards the sound and saw a scene that would be forever etched in his memory. Near the Grand Central subway station, a young woman held a pink children's bicycle with both hands, as if it were her most precious possession. Tears mixed with the rain on her face, but her posture remained erect, proud even in humiliation. Her long brown hair stuck to her wet neck, and the worn-out coat she wore had seen much better days, but there was something in her deep brown eyes that Khalil recognized immediately. The same loneliness he carried, only tempered by a strength he had never possessed. "Buy it, please. It's a good bike, almost new." People hurried past, averting their gaze, some muttering disapproving comments about beggars who dirtied the most important avenue in the city. Khalil watched every expression of disdain, every hurried step away from that woman who preferred to sell her belongings rather than hold out her hand for charity. Sarah Miller felt the world collapsing on her shoulders with every silent "no," every look of disgust directed at her. For 3 days, since she had been fired from the restaurant for refusing the disgusting advances of her manager, she had been trying to find a solution that didn't involve begging. Leo, 6, and Mia, 4, were at home, sharing the last package of cookies left in the empty cupboard, believing their mother's promise that there would soon be food. The bicycle she held represented 6 months of savings, 6 months of working overtime to see Leo's smile when he got it for his birthday. Now it was the only thing of value she owned, besides the love for her children and the iron determination she had inherited from her grandmother, who raised her in the outskirts of the Bronx. "How much?" The male voice, calm and deep with a slight accent she couldn't place, made Sarah look up. Before her stood a tall man, broad-shouldered, wearing jeans and a simple leather jacket. He didn't look rich, but there was something in his posture, in the way he looked directly into her eyes without judgment, that made her hesitate. $50, she murmured, her voice choked. Khalil studied the woman's face, seeing beyond the superficial desperation. He saw a mother willing to make any sacrifice, a woman who maintained her dignity even when life pushed her to the brink. Without a word, he took out his wallet and counted out $500, extending the money to her. I can't accept this. Sarah backed away, her eyes wide. It's too much money. I only asked for 50. I know what a bike is worth, Khalil replied softly, and I know what it represents to you. Sarah's hands trembled as she took the money, tears now streaming freely. For the first time in weeks, she felt she could feed her children, pay at least part of the overdue rent, and breathe for a moment. Thank you, she whispered, and there was so much sincerity in that simple word that Khalil felt something stir in his chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. What's your name? He asked before he could stop himself. Sarah. Sarah Miller. Your children, where are they? At home, waiting. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. They don't know that things are so hard. Khalil watched her carry the bicycle towards the subway, and something inside him refused to let her go. For the first time in 15 years, since he had taken over the family business, someone had looked him in the eye with genuine gratitude, without calculating how much they could gain from the encounter. In the following days, Khalil couldn't forget Sarah Miller. Her name echoed in his mind during important meetings. Her image appeared when he tried to concentrate on financial reports. For the first time, his billion-dollar fortune seemed inadequate, insufficient to solve something that truly mattered. Using his contacts, he found out where she lived, a 2-story building on a narrow street where 2-room apartments housed entire families. When he saw her leaving in the morning, walking hurriedly with a cloth bag on her shoulder, probably looking for work, Khalil felt a physical pain in his chest. Sarah fought against every obstacle with the determination of someone who knew that giving up meant watching her children go hungry. Leo, as smart as she had ever imagined a 6-year-old could be, asked questions she couldn't answer. Why they didn't have more food like before. Why she cried when she thought he wasn't looking. Why Mia constantly repeated that she was hungry. The solution came disguised as a professional opportunity. An unexpected phone call offered her a position as an administrative assistant at Al Mansouri Holdings, a company she knew only by name, one of the largest in the country. The salary was 3 times more than any job she'd ever had. The benefits included a full health plan for her and her children, and the interview was just a formality. Sarah was immediately suspicious. She knew she didn't have the qualifications for a company of that level, but need overcame her distrust. On the day of the interview, wearing the only business suit she owned, she walked through the marble corridors of the corporate building as if entering another world. When the elevator doors opened on the top floor and she saw Khalil al-Mansouri sitting behind a conference table, the world stopped. It was the man who had bought the bicycle, the stranger who had changed her life with a gesture of kindness. But now he was in his natural environment, a tailored suit, the posture of someone who commanded empires, a gaze that was worth billions. Sarah Miller, he said her name as if it were a prayer. You. She barely managed to whisper, slowly understanding the scale of what was happening. Khalil stood up, removing the mask of the cold businessman he wore with everyone else. Before her, he was again just the man who had been moved by her desperation. "Do you accept the job?" he asked simply. The question carried much more than a professional opportunity. It was the beginning of a journey that would change both their lives forever, a story that would prove that true love is born in the most unlikely places, between people who should never have met, but who were destined to transform each other. Sarah looked into his eyes and, for the second time, saw absolute sincerity. Perhaps for the first time in her life, someone saw her as more than just a woman in trouble. He saw a whole person, a warrior mother, a strong woman who deserved a chance. "I accept," she replied, and without knowing it, they sealed a destiny that would test all the limits of love, pride, and the human capacity to overcome differences that seemed insurmountable. Sarah's first days at Al Mansouri Holdings were a roller coaster of conflicting emotions. She arrived every morning at 8 o'clock sharp after dropping Leo off at school and Mia with her neighbor Mrs. Davis, who had offered to look after the girl in exchange for a little help with groceries. The salary she had started receiving finally allowed her to feed her children properly and pay the bills on time, but the feeling of living a dream that could end at any moment tormented her. Khalil maintained a strict professional distance during office hours, treating her as he would any new employee. But Sarah noticed the furtive glances, the way he hesitated when passing her desk, the tension in the air whenever they were in the same room. She herself fought against a growing attraction that she considered inappropriate and dangerous. The Al Mansouri Holdings office occupied 2 entire floors of a mirrored skyscraper on Wall Street with a panoramic view of the city. Sarah quickly learned the administrative routines, impressing her colleagues with her organizational skills and dedication. Jessica Evans, the senior assistant training her, frequently commented on how rare it was to find someone who worked with such grit. "Do you have experience in large companies?" Jessica asked one afternoon while they were organizing financial reports. "No," Sarah answered honestly. "I've always worked in smaller places, but I really need this to work out." Jessica smiled warmly. "It will. You have something that a lot of people here don't, a hunger to succeed." What Sarah didn't know was that Layla Al Mansouri, Khalil's cousin and director of human resources, was watching her every move with growing suspicion. Layla, a 32-year-old woman with a degree in organizational psychology from France, had always harbored unrequited feelings for her cousin, and the sudden hiring of a woman without specific technical qualifications had awakened her female intuition. "Cousin, I need to talk to you about the new employee." Layla entered Khalil's office on a Friday afternoon, closing the door behind her. Khalil looked up from the contracts he was reviewing, trying to keep his expression neutral. "Is there a problem with her work?" "On the contrary, she's exemplary, fast, dedicated, the colleagues like her, but that's what intrigues me." Layla sat in the armchair opposite his desk. A woman with her profile living in the Bronx, a single mother of 2, getting a position here. It's too much of a coincidence. "Sometimes people deserve opportunities," Khalil replied, turning his attention back to the papers. "Since when do you care about social injustices to the point of hiring people out of compassion?" The question hit its mark. Khalil knew his cousin too well to try to fool her completely, but he couldn't reveal the truth either. She went through the selection process like anyone else. "What selection process, Khalil?" "She was hired on your direct recommendation. No technical interview, no tests, no reference checks." Layla leaned forward. "Did you know her before?" The ensuing silence was answer enough. Layla sighed deeply, confirming her suspicions. "You're playing with fire. If the press finds out that the billionaire Khalil Al Mansouri is mixing his personal life with business decisions, it will become a scandal. And if Uncle Ahmad finds out you're getting involved with an American—" "There's no involvement whatsoever," Khalil interrupted, but his voice sounded less convincing than he intended. Meanwhile, Sarah faced her own dilemmas. At home, Leo asked questions about his mother's new job, and she struggled to explain the sudden change in their lives without lying to her son. "Mom, can we buy those filled cookies I like now?" Leo asked one night as they ate rice, beans, and chicken, a full meal for the first time in weeks. "Yes, we can, my love." Sarah smiled, moved at being able to give that answer. "And can I go back to judo?" The boy's eyes shone with hope. "We'll see. We're still getting organized." Mia, younger and more sensitive to changes, clung to her mother more since their routine had changed. "Mommy sad?" she would constantly ask with her still limited vocabulary. "Mommy isn't sad anymore, princess." Sarah would hug her daughter, feeling immense gratitude for the opportunity she had received, but also constant anxiety about its origin. The first serious conflict arose on a Monday morning. Ahmed al-Rashid, the Arab patriarch who was a historic business partner of the al-Mansouri family, was visiting New York to negotiate new investments. Khalil had received clear instructions from his uncle in Dubai. Impressing Ahmed was crucial to expanding business in Latin America. Ahmed arrived accompanied by his daughter, Yasmin al-Rashid, a 28-year-old with a degree in international economics from the London School of Economics. Yasmin was beautiful by traditional Arab standards: golden skin, expressive green eyes, an elegant posture cultivated in European schools. More importantly, she was the obvious candidate to become Khalil's wife, uniting two fortunes for the benefit of both families. "Khalil, my son," and Ahmed embraced the young businessman with paternal affection. Yasmin was eager to see New York again. "Perhaps you two could have dinner together tonight." Khalil greeted Yasmin politely, but his eyes involuntarily searched for Sarah, who was working intently at her desk in the main hall. Yasmin noticed the direction of his gaze and followed it until she found the American woman. "New employee?" she asked casually, with a refined British accent. "Administrative assistant," Khalil replied, trying to seem indifferent. During the meeting that followed, Sarah was called to bring coffee and organize documents. When she entered the conference room, she immediately felt the tension in the air. Ahmed analyzed her from head to toe with an evaluative gaze, while Yasmin greeted her with polite coldness. "Sarah Miller," she introduced herself professionally, serving the coffee with steady hands despite her nervousness. "Pretty," Ahmed commented in Arabic to Khalil, who pretended not to understand the older man's malicious comment. Yasmin also replied in Arabic, "Very pretty and young." Sarah realized they were talking about her, feeling exposed and uncomfortable. Khalil, tense, directed the conversation back to business, but the atmosphere remained charged. After the meeting, Yasmin sought Sarah out at her desk. "Do you speak English?" she asked in fluent Portuguese, but with a foreign accent. "A little," Sarah replied cautiously. "How long have you been working here?" "Just a few weeks." "And before?" Sarah hesitated, feeling interrogated. "I worked in other places." Yasmin smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "Khalil is a generous boss, don't you think? It must be rewarding to work for someone so attentive." The insinuation was clear. Sarah felt her face flush, but she maintained her composure. "Mr. Al-Mansouri is an excellent boss, professional and respectful." "Of course, professional." Yasmin repeated the word as if she doubted its meaning in that context. That night, Khalil took Ahmed and Yasmin to dinner at Per Se, one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. Throughout the meal, Ahmed spoke about the importance of preserving family traditions, about how well-arranged marriages strengthened business empires, about how Yasmin would be a perfect wife for a man in Khalil's position. "She understands our world," Ahmed said, while savoring the French wine. "She was raised for this, to be the companion of a leader." Yasmin conversed intelligently about the global economy, demonstrating impressive knowledge of the Al-Mansouri family's business. She was exactly the type of woman Khalil should choose: educated, sophisticated, from an appropriate family, capable of navigating circles of power without causing embarrassment. But his thoughts constantly returned to Sarah. The way she cared for her children with infinite affection, how she worked with silent determination, how her eyes shone with genuine gratitude when she could provide something good for Leo and Mia. Yasmin was perfect on paper, but Sarah was real. When he returned to the office the next day, Khalil found Sarah organizing files with the efficiency that had already become her trademark. For a moment, he watched her work, admiring the dedicated concentration with which she treated each task. "Sarah," he called her into his office. She entered carrying a folder of documents, maintaining the professional distance they had both tacitly established. "Yes, Mr. Al-Mansouri? How are your children?" The question caught her off guard. "Well, very well, thank you. Does Leo still like bicycles?" Sarah smiled involuntarily. "Now he wants to be a race car driver. He changes his dream every week." "And Mia? She's learning to count. Yesterday she counted to 20 by herself." Khalil smiled too, and for a moment the professional barrier between them dissolved. They were just a man and a woman, connected by something deeper than corporate hierarchies. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" "For letting me be a part of this." Sarah felt her heart race. The intimacy of that moment, the sincerity in his voice, the way he looked at her. Everything conspired against her determination to keep things strictly professional. "Mr. Al-Mansouri, Khalil. When we're alone, you can call me Khalil." "I don't think that's appropriate." "Why not?" "Because you're my boss, because I need this job, because—" She hesitated, fighting against the words she wanted to say. "Because you feel the same way I do," he completed softly. The silence that followed was charged with sexual and emotional tension. Sarah knew she was on the edge of a precipice, that one false step would destroy everything she had achieved. But she also knew she couldn't pretend for much longer that she felt nothing for this man. "I can't afford to feel anything," she finally murmured. "And what if I said I can't either?" Their eyes met, and for the first time since she had started working there, Sarah saw beyond the mask of the successful businessman. She saw a lonely man, pressured by family expectations, struggling with feelings he didn't know how to process. The door burst open, and Layla entered without knocking, interrupting the moment. Her gaze quickly scanned the scene. The proximity between them, the palpable tension in the air, the guilty expressions on both their faces. "Sorry to interrupt," she said with poorly disguised irony. "Ahmed Al-Rashid wants to talk to you about tomorrow's contracts." Sarah used the distraction to quickly leave the room, leaving the cousins alone. Layla closed the door and faced Khalil with a stern expression. "This needs to stop, now." The following weeks turned the Al-Mansouri Holdings environment into an emotional minefield. Layla had intensified her surveillance of Khalil and Sarah, assigning tasks that kept them apart and creating awkward situations whenever she perceived them talking. Yasmin Al-Rashid had extended her stay in New York, officially to get to know the company's Brazilian operations better. But everyone knew her real goal was to consolidate a relationship with Khalil. Sarah felt the pressure mounting daily. Layla's suspicious glances, subtle comments from other employees about her rapid rise, the constant presence of Yasmin circulating the office as if she already owned the place. Everything conspired to remind her that she didn't belong in that world, that her presence there was an anomaly that would soon be corrected. At home, the positive changes in her financial life contrasted with the emotional anguish she carried. Leo was back in his judo classes, showing off his white belt with immense pride, while Mia attended a private preschool, developing rapidly in a stimulating environment. But Sarah couldn't fully enjoy these achievements, tormented by the knowledge that everything could collapse if she made a wrong move. "Mom, you're different," Leo observed one night as she helped him with his homework. "You seem worried all the time." "It's just the new job, honey. I'm still getting used to it." "Do you like your boss?" The innocent question hit Sarah like a punch. "Why do you ask that?" "Because when you talk about him, your face gets weird, like when you watch those romantic movies on TV." The child's perception was frighteningly accurate. Sarah hugged her son, trying to hide the blush that spread across her face. "What matters is that he's a good boss and gave me a chance when I needed one." Leo nodded, satisfied with the explanation, but Sarah was disturbed by how easily her feelings showed, even to a child. In the office, the situation reached a breaking point on a rainy Thursday. Ahmed al-Rashid had called a special meeting to announce a new project: the construction of a petrochemical complex in upstate New York. A $2 billion investment that would be the company's largest in the US. The meeting brought together all the directors and top executives, and Sarah was assigned to take notes and organize the documentation. During the presentation, Khalil demonstrated the technical mastery and strategic vision that made him a respected leader in the industry. Sarah watched him command the meeting with natural authority, articulating complex ideas with impressive clarity, and felt a mixture of admiration and melancholy. There he was in his element, the billionaire who moved entire economies, while she was just the assistant taking notes. "This project," Ahmed said at the end of the presentation, "will consolidate our presence on the American continent for generations. It is a legacy that Khalil will build for his children." "When Khalil gets married," Yasmin added with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "his children will inherit an empire even greater than the current one." All heads turned to Khalil, who maintained a neutral expression, but Sarah noticed the tension in his shoulders. The message was clear. The project, the future of the company, everything depended on Khalil making the right choices, including matrimonial ones. After the meeting, while organizing the documents, Sarah overheard Layla talking on the phone in her office with the door ajar. "Yes, Uncle Farid, I understand your concerns. Ahmed is right. This is the ideal time to formalize the engagement. No, there's nothing official between Khalil and anyone here, but it's better to be safe." "Yes, the al-Rashid family is eager to announce." Sarah felt her stomach clench. Engagement. The word echoed in her mind like a death sentence for any romantic fantasy she still harbored. Khalil would marry Yasmin, as he was always destined to do, and she would go back to being what she always was, an ordinary woman trying to survive in a world that didn't belong to her. That night, after putting the children to sleep, Sarah sat on the small balcony of her apartment and allowed herself to cry. She cried for her lost innocence, for the heart that had opened when it should have remained closed, for the anticipated pain of a loss that hadn't officially happened yet. Khalil, on the other side of the city, paced restlessly through the rooms of his penthouse, a 1,000-square-meter property with a panoramic view of New York that was worth millions, but had always seemed cold and empty. The family pressure to marry Yasmin had intensified in recent weeks, and he knew he couldn't avoid the decision for much longer. Yasmin was everything he should want in a wife: intelligent, sophisticated, from a suitable family, capable of being a partner, worthy of his position. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Sarah's shy smile when she managed to buy a new toy for Mia, heard her proud laugh when Leo showed his first judo medal, felt the absolute sincerity in every word she directed at him. Ahmed's decision came on Friday morning, disguised as a social invitation. "Khalil, I have organized a dinner for tomorrow night. Some important families, potential investors, people who need to know our future plans. Yasmin would be honored to accompany you as your partner." It wasn't a request. It was a diplomatic order. Khalil understood that this dinner would be the stage for an unofficial engagement announcement, a way to publicly pressure him into a decision he had been postponing. "Of course," he replied, a feeling like a man walking to his own funeral. Sarah found out about the dinner through Jessica, who casually mentioned the event while they were organizing reports. "They say it's going to be a special night. A lot of important people, the cream of New York society, and Yasmin al-Rashid will be accompanying Mr. Khalil." "Good for them," Sarah replied, trying to keep her voice steady. She's beautiful, right? And rich, a perfect match for someone like him. Every word was a stab, but Sarah forced a smile. People from the same world understand each other better. That weekend, as Khalil prepared for an event that could seal his matrimonial fate, Sarah decided to do something she had been putting off for weeks: look for another job. She couldn't continue working there, seeing him every day, knowing he would build a life with someone else. She needed to preserve what was left of her sanity and pride. The dinner took place at the Plaza Hotel, specially decorated for the occasion. Khalil arrived with Yasmin, who was stunning in a navy blue designer dress, discreet but expensive jewelry, her hair in an elegant bun that highlighted her graceful neck. They made an impressive couple, the kind of union that would appear in the society pages of magazines. Throughout the evening, Ahmed made a point of presenting the couple as the future of Al Mansouri Holdings, while other businessmen congratulated Khalil on his excellent choice and Yasmin on her luck in finding such an extraordinary man. The social circle of the New York and Arab elite already considered the marriage a done deal. Yasmin behaved like a perfect potential bride, charming with investors, respectful to her elders, demonstrating knowledge of art, politics, and international economics. Khalil objectively recognized that she would be an ideal wife for his practical needs. But when the patriarch of a Syrian family asked when they planned to officially announce the engagement, Khalil felt a desperate claustrophobia. "We are still getting to know each other better," he replied diplomatically. "Don't take too long," the older man laughed. "A woman like Yasmin doesn't stay single forever." The following Monday, Sarah arrived at the office with a typed resignation letter and a backup job offer, a receptionist position at a medical clinic that paid much less, but would give her the emotional distance she needed. She kept the letter in her drawer, planning to give it to Khalil at the end of the day. But fate had other plans. Around noon, the phone rang from Leo's school. The principal explained that the boy had felt sick during recess, with a high fever and body aches. Sarah asked for permission to leave early and rushed to pick him up. At the public hospital, after hours of waiting, the diagnosis came like a thunderbolt. Leo had pneumonia and needed to be admitted immediately for intravenous treatment. The doctor explained that the condition was serious but treatable, as long as he received the right medication quickly. The problem was that the basic health plan the company offered didn't cover the private hospital that had the necessary equipment available immediately. The public one was at full capacity, and Leo would have to wait at least 2 days for a spot in the pediatric ward. Sarah felt the world collapse again. She had some money saved, but not enough to pay for a private hospital. She called everyone she knew, begged the doctors for alternatives, but the reality was cruel. Money bought time, and time was what Leo didn't have. Desperate, with her feverish son in her arms, Sarah made the hardest decision of her life. She called Khalil. "I need help," she said when he answered, her voice choked with tears. "Leo is sick. He needs to be hospitalized, and I don't have enough money." "Where are you?" Khalil asked immediately, abandoning the meeting he was conducting. "Mount Sinai Hospital, on the east side. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't worry about the money." When Khalil arrived at the hospital, he found Sarah sitting in the reception area, holding a sleeping Leo, the boy's face red with fever. She looked small and lost in those plastic chairs, a desperate mother facing the worst nightmare of any parent, alone. "How is he?" Khalil knelt beside her. "The doctor said it's pneumonia. He needs to be admitted, intravenous medication, tests." Sarah couldn't stop crying. "I tried everything, but I don't have enough money." "It's going to be okay." Khalil touched Leo's feverish face tenderly. "Leave it to me." Within half an hour, Khalil had transferred Leo to the best children's hospital in the city, hired a specialized medical team, and ensured the boy received all the necessary care. Sarah watched everything in a state of shock and gratitude, seeing for the first time the real power of money when used for good. During the 3-day hospitalization, Khalil never left their side. He brought toys for Leo, food for Sarah, and arranged for Mia to stay with the neighbor so Sarah wouldn't have to worry about anything but her son's recovery. As Leo began to improve, he played with Khalil as if he were a beloved uncle, and the businessman discovered a patience and affection he never knew he possessed. "Why are you doing this?" Sarah asked on the second night when they were alone in the hallway while Leo slept. "Because they are important to you, and you are important to me. I'm your employee. You know you're much more than that." Sarah closed her eyes, fighting back tears. "Khalil, you're going to marry Yasmin. Everyone knows that. I can't. I can't keep pretending I don't feel anything for you. And what if I told you I don't want to marry her? I'd say you're confused, that it's the pressure of the moment, that when Leo is well, you'll go back to your world and I'll go back to mine." Khalil took Sarah's face in his hands, forcing her to look him in the eyes. "My world means nothing without you in it." The kiss that followed was inevitable, charged with weeks of repressed tension, fear, desire, and a desperate tenderness. When they separated, they both knew they had crossed a line from which they could not return. Leo's recovery brought a definitive change in the relationship between Khalil and Sarah. The fear of losing her son had broken down all the barriers she had built to protect herself, while seeing her vulnerability had awakened in Khalil a protective instinct that transcended any social convention. When they returned to work, they could no longer pretend to be just a boss and an employee. Layla noticed the change immediately. The way Khalil looked at Sarah, how she smiled when he passed her desk, the silent intimacy that had been established between them. During the weekly board meeting, she decided to act. "Khalil, we need to talk about the administrative assistant situation," she said in front of the other directors. "Employees are commenting that she receives special treatment, that she has access to confidential information without the proper qualifications. This is creating a toxic work environment." The tense silence that followed was broken by the CFO. "Indeed, I have noticed some irregularities. Her hiring did not follow our usual protocols." Khalil felt the trap closing. "Sarah Miller is an exemplary employee. Her performance speaks for itself." "No one is questioning her performance," Layla continued relentlessly. "We are questioning the criteria for her hiring and continued employment. The company has clear policies about relationships between superiors and subordinates." "What relationship?" Khalil tried to keep his voice controlled. "Cousin, we all know what's happening. And we all know that Ahmed al-Rashid expects an engagement announcement with Yasmin before the end of the month." The pressure exploded publicly when Yasmin attended the next meeting, accompanied by her father. Ahmed al-Rashid entered the conference room with the posture of a general ready for battle, Yasmin at his side, impeccable as always. "Khalil," Ahmed spoke in a formal tone, "we need to definitively resolve the issue of your marriage. Yasmin has been receiving proposals from other important families, and she cannot wait indefinitely for your decision." Khalil looked at Yasmin, who maintained her dignity despite the embarrassing situation. "Ahmed, I have great respect for your daughter, but—" "There are no buts that hold up," Ahmed interrupted. "Your parents, may God bless them, did business with my family for decades. This union would consolidate our empires and honor their memory. And what if my feelings lie elsewhere? Feelings pass. Business and family are permanent." Yasmin, who had remained silent, finally spoke. "Father, perhaps we should hear what Khalil has to say." "Yasmin, you are an extraordinary woman," Khalil said sincerely. "Any man would be honored to have you as his wife, but I cannot offer you the love you deserve. And you can offer that love to an American with no family, no education, with 2 children from another man, Ahmed exploded. You would destroy decades of reputation for a whim. It's not a whim, Khalil replied with growing firmness. It's love. The scandal that followed shook the entire corporate structure of Al Mansouri Holdings. Ahmed withdrew his investments, Yasmin returned to London with her dignity wounded but intact, and Layla threatened to resign. But the worst was yet to come. Sarah found out about the meeting through the rumors that spread through the company like wildfire. When she confronted Khalil in his office, she was furious and humiliated. "How could you talk about love when you've made me a laughingstock for the entire company?" she shouted, tears of anger streaming down her face. "Sarah, I had no choice. They forced me." "No one forced you to do anything. You could have handled this without exposing our private lives, without making everyone think I'm a gold digger who seduced her boss." "No one thinks that. Everyone thinks that. Layla has already told half the office that I offered myself to you in exchange for the job. The other employees look at me like I'm a high-class prostitute." Khalil tried to get closer, but she recoiled. "Sarah, please. No, enough. I'm leaving the company. I'll leave New York if I have to. I can't live like this anymore." "You can't leave. I need you." "You don't need me, Khalil. You need to decide what you really want in life, and I can't wait around while you figure it out." Sarah left the room, cleared her desk under the curious gazes of her colleagues, and handed her resignation letter to Jessica. That same afternoon, she moved with her children to a rented apartment in Queens, far from the city center, far from Khalil, far from everything that reminded her of the impossible dream she had lived for a few months. The first days away from Khalil were the worst of Sarah's life. She had found a job as a receptionist at the medical clinic, with a much lower salary than she received at Al Mansouri Holdings, but enough to keep her children fed and in school. Leo constantly asked about Uncle Khalil, while Mia cried inexplicably, feeling the absence of a caring male presence that had become important in their young lives. Khalil plunged into a deep depression that compromised his leadership ability. He tried to locate Sarah by all possible means, but she had cut off all forms of contact. He spent entire nights driving through the streets of New York, hoping to find her by chance, visiting all the places where they had been together. The company began to feel the effects of its CEO's emotional instability. Important contracts were neglected, meetings cancelled, strategic decisions postponed. Layla, realizing she had gone too far in her revenge, tried to reach out. "Khalil, you need to get over this. The company is suffering." "The company will survive," he replied without looking up from the papers he couldn't concentrate on reading. "And you? Will you survive?" "I don't know, and I don't care." The turning point came from where it was least expected. 3 months after the separation, Leo had a relapse of pneumonia, more severe this time. Sarah rushed him to the nearest public hospital, but the public health system was overloaded, and the doctors couldn't stabilize his condition with the available resources. In desperation, she called the only number she had kept, Khalil's personal cell phone. It was 4 in the morning when the phone rang. "Khalil," her voice was broken by sobs. "Leo is very sick. I don't know what to do anymore." "Where are you?" "Queens General Hospital." "I'll pick you up in 20 minutes. Khalil arrived at the hospital like a hurricane, arranging for Leo's immediate transfer to the pediatric ICU of the best hospital in the city. During the critical 12 hours that followed, he never left Sarah's side, holding her hand as she prayed for her son, bringing her food she couldn't eat, taking care of Mia, who cried scared in the hallways. When the doctor finally said that Leo was out of danger, Sarah collapsed into Khalil's arms, crying with relief and gratitude. There, in that hospital corridor, she understood that true love is not destroyed by pride or social differences. "Thank you," she whispered against his chest. "Thank you for being here." I will always be here, Khalil replied, kissing the top of her head. Whenever you need me. Khalil, Don't say anything now. Leo needs you whole. We'll talk later. In the following days, as Leo recovered, Khalil made the most important decisions of his life. He sold a significant portion of his shares in Al Mansouri Holdings to become independent of family pressures, created a social foundation focused on education and child health for underprivileged communities, and restructured the entire company to operate more democratically and ethically. When Leo was discharged, Khalil made the proposal that would change everything. Sarah, I want you to come back to work with me, not as an employee, as a partner. Khalil, I don't have the qualifications to... You have something much more valuable than qualifications. You know the real needs of the people we want to help. I want to create a company that not only generates profit, but transforms lives. And I need you for that. The proposal was tempting, but Sarah had learned to protect her heart. And what about us? About what we feel for each other? Khalil knelt before her, right there in the hospital room, in front of Leo, who watched everything with wide, curious eyes. Sarah Miller, you taught me that true wealth is not in bank accounts, but in the people we love. You showed me that courage is a single mother fighting to feed her children. That dignity is holding your head high, even when the world is collapsing. You made me discover that I can be a better man than I ever imagined. Khalil, will you marry me? Not because you have to, but because you love me enough to build a life together that makes sense. Leo shouted with joy before Sarah could answer. Mia clapped her hands without fully understanding what was happening, but feeling the happiness in the air. Yes, Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I accept. The wedding took place 6 months later, in a simple but emotional ceremony. Khalil had insisted on a party that reflected their values. Instead of extravagance, they invited families from the communities where they worked, children from the schools they helped, employees from all levels of the company. Leo and Mia were the ring bearer and flower girl, proud to finally have an official father. Layla, who had initially resisted the changes, eventually became a valuable ally when she understood that the new direction of the company was not only more ethical but also more profitable in the long run. Yasmin sent a wedding gift accompanied by an elegant letter wishing the couple happiness. 2 years later, Khalil and Sarah had transformed Al Mansouri Holdings into a benchmark for corporate social responsibility. Sarah, who had resumed her studies and graduated in administration, led programs that brought quality education to underprivileged communities, while Khalil expanded the renewable energy business. Leo, now 8, spoke 3 languages and dreamed of being an engineer like his stepfather. Mia, at 6, had inherited her mother's determination and her adoptive father's generosity. The couple had also had a daughter, Layla, who was growing up bilingual and bicultural, a living symbol of the union of 2 worlds. On the balcony of their new house, a comfortable but not ostentatious residence on the Upper West Side, Sarah watched Khalil playing in the garden with the 3 children. Leo was teaching him judo moves, Mia was showing him the drawings she had made at school, and little Layla slept nestled in his strong arms. "What are you thinking about?" Khalil approached after putting the children to watch a movie in the living room. "About that day on Park Avenue," Sarah smiled, leaning against his chest, "when I was selling Leo's bike. The day my life changed forever." "Our life," she corrected. "Our life changed forever." Khalil kissed her hair, breathing in the familiar scent that calmed him like no material wealth ever could. "Do you know what my first thought was when I saw you that day?" "What?" "That I had finally found someone stronger than me, someone who faced life head-on, without armor, without fear of being vulnerable." "And were you right?" "I was. You taught me that true strength comes from love, not power, that real courage is loving without guarantees, protecting without controlling, building without destroying. Sarah turned in his arms, looking into the brown eyes that had become her safe harbor. "And you taught me that I deserve something better than I ever dreamed of having. That true love doesn't diminish anyone, but elevates both." The kiss they exchanged was soft, filled with gratitude for all they had overcome together. In the background, they could hear the children's laughter as they watched the movie, the sound that had become the soundtrack of their lives. Years later, when they told their story to friends or in interviews about social responsibility, Khalil and Mariana always emphasized the same thing. True love doesn't happen despite differences, but because of them. Every obstacle they faced, every prejudice they overcame, every tear they cried, had strengthened the foundation on which they built not just a family, but a legacy that transformed lives far beyond their own. Leo's pink bicycle, restored and framed, remained on the wall of Sarah's office at the company, a constant reminder that the greatest loves are born from the most desperate moments, and that sometimes we need to lose everything to discover what is truly worth having. Khalil al-Mansouri and Sarah Miller proved that true love does not choose social classes, does not respect outdated family traditions, and does not bend to external pressures. It only chooses hearts brave enough to fight for it, regardless of the price they have to pay. And when that love is nurtured with respect, partnership, and a common purpose, it becomes a force capable of moving not only mountains, but entire empires. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story, giving it a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.